And finally, to my daughter Elmira, after this sale closes, I'm sending you to a special care facility in upstate New York. It's got painting classes. You'll be happy there. And frankly, I'll be happy not to explain you to investors anymore. Jacob raised his glass of expensive scotch, and the lawyers at the table laughed. I stood right behind him, holding his briefcase tight. I didn't say a word. I didn't spill the water I was pouring. I just stared at the back of his neck. He thought he was celebrating a $45 million sale. He didn't know he had just signed his own warrant. Inside that briefcase, the ink was already dry. The trap was set, and he had walked right into it. 48 hours before that toast. The office walls were vibrating. Jacob wasn't just yelling. He was shredding his vocal cords. The due diligence report for the sale was a disaster. The buyers wanted to see the projected liabilities for the next fiscal quarter, and the numbers Donna had prepared were off. Not by a few cents. By $4 million. My name is Elmira. I am 29 years old. To the world, I am the admin assistant who needs extra time to read a menu. To my father, I am a tax write-off. He thinks my dyslexia makes me stupid. He doesn't understand that when the words float on the page, my brain compensates. I don't read lines. I see structures. I see patterns. And looking at that report, I saw a collapsing building. You are useless. Jacob threw the file across the mahogany table. It slid off the edge and scattered on the floor next to my shoes. Donna was crying, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. She sobbed that she had tried, but the software was confusing. The deal is on Friday. Jacob slammed his fist down. The coffee in my hand rippled. If these numbers aren't fixed, the buyer walks. And if the buyer walks, we are finished. He didn't look at me. He never looked at me. He just pointed at the floor and told me to pick it up, then ordered Donna to get out of his sight. I knelt down. I gathered the pages. My eyes scanned the columns. It took me 3 seconds to spot it. Donna hadn't used the updated ledger. She had copied and pasted data from 2021. The variables didn't match the current interest rates. It was a mess, but it was a fixable mess. I walked to my desk in the corner. It is a small desk, facing the wall, away from the windows. I sat down. I pulled up the master spreadsheet. The numbers locked into place in my mind. I didn't need to read the headers. I recognized the shapes of the data. I started typing. Jacob paced behind me, muttering about incompetence, about how he was surrounded by idiots. He didn't know I was saving his life. 10 minutes later, the liabilities were balanced. The $4 million hole was gone. I hit print. The warm pages slid into the tray. But before I stapled them, I paused. I needed to know. I needed to be sure. I took a pen and made a tiny mark on page 7. A small calculation error in the appendix. It was insignificant. A rounding difference of about $50. It wouldn't kill the deal. But any competent CEO reviewing a sale document would spot it. It was a test. If he caught it, he was still the shark he claimed to be. If he missed it, he was just a man asleep at the wheel. I walked back into his office and placed the stack on his desk. Jacob snatched it. He flipped to the summary page. He looked at the bottom line. He grunted. Then he flipped past page 7 without even glancing at the figures. He didn't check the math. He didn't check the sources. He just checked that the problem was gone. He tossed the report into his briefcase. He sneered without looking up from his phone, telling me it took long enough, and that I should try to keep up or get out. He failed the test. I walked back to my desk and sat down. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my hands were steady. He was lazy. He was arrogant. And he was entirely dependent on the person he despised. He thought I was slow. He didn't realize that while he was busy screaming, I was holding the keys to the kingdom, and he had just given me permission to lock him out. 1 week later, I stood in front of Jacob's desk again. My glasses had snapped at the hinge that morning. Without them, the spreadsheets were just gray blurs. I couldn't do my job. I couldn't save his company. I couldn't even read the subway map to get home. I needed a new pair, and my insurance didn't cover the high-index lenses I required. I asked for a raise, just to $35,000. Cost of living adjustments. Jacob didn't look up from his lunch. He was eating a steak salad that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. He chewed slowly, staring at a spot somewhere over my left shoulder. A raise, he repeated, the word tasting sour in his mouth. For what? Existing? I told him it was for the work I do. For the overtime. For fixing the liability report. He laughed then. A sharp, barking sound that made Donna look up from her phone on the plush leather sofa. He wiped his mouth with a linen napkin and told me to be very clear about something. He said I didn't work there because I was useful. He said I worked there because the IRS gave him a 5% tax credit for employing someone with a cognitive disability. He called me a walking deduction. He said that was my contribution to the firm. He told me I saved him money by being slow, and that paying me more would defeat the entire purpose of keeping me around. The air in the room went thin. He wasn't just underpaying me. He was monetizing my struggle. He was profiting off the very thing he mocked. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. He balled it up and tossed it at me. It hit my chest and fell to the carpet. He told me to buy some superglue and get out because he had real business to discuss. I bent down. I picked up the money. My fingers brushed the expensive Persian rug. Donna giggled from the couch, telling her dad it was a bad look having me squint at the investors because it made them look discount. Jacob muttered that it wouldn't matter soon. He said we had to sell this week. He said the decade audit on the family trust would hit in 2 months. He said if he didn't have the cash liquid and the books cooked by then, the auditors were going to ask where the maintenance fund went. He didn't think I was listening. He thought I was too stupid to understand what a decade audit meant. He thought I was just the disabled girl looking for glue money. But I knew exactly what it meant. The family trust, the one my grandmother set up, audited the books every 10 years. He had been draining it to pay for Donna's Porsche and his country club fees. He was selling the company not to retire, but to cover his tracks. He was desperate. He was cornered. I smoothed the $20 bill in my hand. He wanted me to fix my glasses? Fine. I would fix them. I needed to see clearly for what I was about to do. He had just admitted his deadline. He had just handed me the timer on the bomb. They broke me down that afternoon. They laughed at my broken frames. But they didn't know that while they were mocking my vision, I was the only one in the room who could see the cliff they were driving toward, and I wasn't going to hit the brakes. The night before the signing, the air in the office smelled like ozone and expensive cologne. Jacob was in a rush. He had a helicopter waiting on the roof to take him to the Hamptons for a pre-celebration dinner with some silent partners. He was already wearing his coat, checking his watch every 30 seconds. He barked from the doorway, asking where the admin stack was because he needed to clear his desk before he left. This was it. The moment I had curated for 4 years. I walked over to him. In my hands, I held a neat pile of paper. To the naked eye, it was boring. It was the kind of bureaucratic sawdust that makes a CEO's eyes glaze over. Fire safety compliance updates. Directors' insurance renewals. HVAC maintenance logs. But sandwiched in the middle, sitting innocently between a request for new printer toner and a parking permit renewal, were 2 documents that would burn his world down. The first was the appointment of independent trustee. It authorized an external auditor to take immediate control of the family trust, voting rights if any financial irregularity was flagged. The second was the kill shot. Unlimited personal liability, indemnity. I handed him the stack. I made sure my hands shook a little. I made sure I looked overwhelmed, small, the way he liked me. I kept my voice soft and told him it was just the standard compliance junk. I told him the lawyers needed these cleared before the sale documents went through tomorrow. I told him it was mostly insurance riders. Jacob sighed. The heavy, dramatic sigh of a man burdened by his own importance. He pulled a gold fountain pen from his pocket. He didn't sit down. He stood there, leaning over the desk, flipping pages with an aggressive snap. He signed the fire safety form. Scratch. He signed the parking permit. Scratch. Then he paused. He was looking at the indemnity form. The header was dense legal jargon. If he read the first paragraph, he would see that he was personally guaranteeing the company's financials with his own private assets. He would see that if the books were cooked, which he knew they were, he would lose everything. My heart stopped. The room went silent. He tapped the paper and asked what it was. I didn't freeze. I didn't stutter. I leaned in, pointing to the bright yellow sticky note I had placed right over the warning text block. I told him in a bored voice that it was a director's insurance update. I said the buyer's legal team wanted to make sure the liability coverage extended to the sale price. I said it just cleared the underwriters. It was a lie, wrapped in the truth. It was about liability. His. He looked at the sticky note. Then he looked at his watch. He had a helicopter to catch. He had champagne to drink. And he was talking to the daughter he was about to institutionalize. In his mind, I was too stupid to lie. I was too slow to construct a trap this complex. He sneered and said fine. Whatever got them off his back. The pen hit the paper. The ink flowed. He signed his name with a flourish, looping the first letter wide and arrogant. He flipped the page. He signed the trustee appointment. He signed the rest of the stack in 10 seconds flat. He tossed the pen onto the desk. It rolled and hit my hand. He told me he was done. He told me to file them and go home. He told me to try to look presentable tomorrow because he didn't want me scaring the buyers. He grabbed his coat and walked out. He didn't look back. I waited until the elevator dinged. Then I waited another minute until I heard the faint thrum of the helicopter taking off from the roof. Only then did I pick up the papers. The signature was wet and black. It wasn't just a signature. It was a confession. It was consent. I walked to the scanner. I digitized every page. I sent the files to the independent auditor I had already briefed. I sent the indemnity form to the buyer's legal team, framed as a last-minute compliance update. Jacob thought he was flying toward a celebration. He didn't know he had just handed the pilot the coordinates to a crash site. He called me a good little secretary. He was right. I filed everything perfectly. I filed it right where it would hurt the most. The boardroom was freezing. That's how rich people like it. It keeps the negotiations sharp and the sweat hidden. But Jacob wasn't sweating. He was glowing. He sat at the head of the long glass table, flanked by Donna and a team of junior associates who looked like they cost $1,000 an hour. On the other side sat the buyers, a private equity group from Chicago. In the center of the table lay the asset purchase agreement. And next to it, the certified bank draft. $45 million. I sat in the far corner, near the water pitcher. The invisible seat. I had my laptop open, but the screen was black. I wasn't taking notes today. I was waiting for the notification. Jacob reached for the pen, relaxed. Already talking about his noon tea time. Donna smirked at me. Bye-bye. $45 million was seconds from becoming his retirement. Stop. The buyer's lead counsel raised a hand, eyes on his phone. He read, closed the binder with a snap, and said the deal was frozen. All equity transfers had been halted at 9 a.m. Jacob exploded, insisting he was the voting trustee. The lawyer turned the screen. Jacob wasn't. He had signed an appointment the night before, handing control to an independent forensic accounting firm. They had immediately suspended his voting rights over suspected embezzlement. Silence crushed the room. Donna dropped her phone. Jacob finally remembered the yellow sticky note. Sign here. He looked at me. I tapped the blue folder, the countersigned trustee appointment, filed an hour earlier. I calmly told him he had done this to himself. The buyer packed up the check and walked. Jacob screamed, lunged, and was stopped by security. The lawyer then revealed a $3 million hole in the trust money spent on jets and luxury cars. Jacob begged. Too late. The final document was worse. An unlimited personal liability indemnity. Jacob had personally guaranteed fraudulent books. His house, accounts, and pension were collateral. The firm sued him personally on Monday. I had him escorted out. Donna was told to take the subway. 6 months later, I sat in my grandmother's chair. I didn't become CEO. I run the trust. I hold veto power. Jacob now lives in a rented studio, assets frozen, facing prison. Donna folds clothes in a boutique. I was offered a consulting role for fraud detection. I declined. They once called me slow. Invisible. Slow isn't stupid. Slow is careful. While they chased attention, I built leverage. My name is Almira. I am chairwoman of the Whitford Trust, and I am done being invisible.